This video was made possible by WoodChip Woodworking.
Hello YouTube, welcome to the third video in an 8-part series focusing on the mini-lathe. Today we're going to be talking about the different tools required for turning, as well as some of the ones that you will come across once in your turning careers. We're also going to be talking about the different type of accidents that can happen with your turning tools, as well as what damage can be done to your tools. So if you use a tool in the wrong way, what will happen to it. Okay, so the first 3 tools that we're going to be covering are sort of the most domestic tools, so to speak. They are the ones that will take up 90% or even more of your turning. Okay? These tools are the 3/4 inch spindle gouge, also known as the roughing gouge, the 3/8 inch spindle gouge, just spindle gouge, and then your bowl gouge for turning bowls. Always exciting. Now, starting over here with 3/4 inch spindle gouge, this tool is used in almost every facet of spindle turning. It's never used in bowl turning, however, so keep that in mind for you bowl turners. For spindle turning, it's used to take the wood from a square shape or an octagonal shape and turn it into a cylinder. Okay? Now, moving over to 3/8 spindle gouge, it's used for detailing work, rarely used for, maybe if you have like a really small project you need to work on, you would use this for roughing. But if you notice the size of the flute and the difference, this is much more likely to bend over because there's less force required in order to bend this piece of metal than there is to bend this piece of metal. Next we have the bowl gouge. Now the bowl gouge is used for face turning when you're using a chuck. It can also be used for spindle turning and to shape the outside of your bowl. So if you want a steep angle or you just want like a straight type angle, this is what you'd use. These are the most basic tools that you will come across. Every shop should have them if you have a lathe. Right, now let's talk about the different grinds and the different handles you'll see on these tools. For the 3/4 inch, you notice I just have a nice straight grind. Alright, it's a half moon shape and it's just a really nice bevel right there. That's the most basic grind. You also notice that it's half mooned here too. The edges slant back. That's to make sure that when you're turning, the edges won't catch and won't tear out your wood or throw the tool. If you look at the 3/8 spindle gouge, you notice it's also beveled, but the edges don't slant back. Alright, the edges stay straight. If my camera will focus. There we go. Okay, the edges are straight across. This is my own personal grind. I simply like this better because I'm not a big fan of the Skew, and by using this, it enables me to get a much cleaner cut and a much straighter cut when I'm just turning a long cylinder. If we look over here at the bowl gouge, you will see that it's a very nice swooping type of a design. Alright, flute's narrow. You also notice that it's nice and thick steel because there's so much force being exerted on your bowl gouge when you're turning. Okay, moving on to handle size. We have here a 3/4 inch spindle gouge, nice and short handle. Now, this isn't normally what you want. I simply got all these brown handled tools passed down to me because I'm pretty much too lazy to go buy my own tools. And So yeah, if you have any tool that's designed to take a lot of wood off, like this tool is, you want a nice long handle. Alright? Now, for your spindle gouge, you don't necessarily need such a long handle because it's just for detailing work. It's nice, it's close to the wood, you're not taking huge amounts of wood off. With the bowl gouge, you need a long handle. I specifically bought this one. Well, one, because the steel's great, but because it has such a long handle. If you have tools that have short handles, you can make your own handles. I just haven't, because I've had other projects I need to do. But if you really like a tool, you can just make your own handle. The next thing we're going to cover in this portion of the video is the Skew chisel family. Now I'm setting the Skews apart from the other tools because they're essentially a class within themselves. Some people just absolutely love the Skew, and that they use that from everything from roughing the wood from a basic square shape or an octagonal shape all the way to your finishing right before you sand. I personally don't like the Skew because it catches so easy, and when it catches, it's much worse than a different tool like a spindle gouge or a roughing gouge. Now, if we look at the Skews, there's many different sizes of blades. Alright, these are both half-inch Skews. This is a quarter-inch Skew. Okay, you can see the difference in the size of the metal. Starting with the half-inch. Essentially what you're doing is you are slicing the wood with this beveled edge. So if you see, sorry, it's a bit dirty. Camera's focusing, there we go. Now if you see, it's making a knife. That's what you're doing when you grind these. And all the wood's going to do is just slice against that knife side. Same thing for all of them. They're all just knives. And yes, this is drywall. My dad had no idea what these were and thought they were drywall chisels. So, don't use lathe tools on drywall. Just don't do it. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to handle size. This is the Skew I use. I don't use these brown ones specifically because of the handle size. With a Skew, I really want a long handle size because I'm not all that great with a Skew, and I want the extra control of being able to hold it all the way at the bottom. You can use the smaller ones with smaller handles. I just don't like them. If you are going to get a Skew, I would highly recommend getting a larger half-inch instead of a quarter-inch. Pretty much every time I've used a quarter-inch Skew, I have always caught on this bottom edge, which is where you're going to catch if you use a Skew. If you want to use a Skew, and because you just like the way that it functions, you can also make a radial Skew, which I will insert picture now. And that's much safer than using a basic Skew because you don't have this bottom edge to catch on. Alright, the next portion of this is going to be on scrapers and parting tools. Yes, parting tools. This is a round nose scraper. Alright, it has a round nose. It's flat on the top, and you can see the bevel on the bottom. This is used for getting a nice cut if you really just don't like sanding. Use one of these. I don't use it much because I can normally achieve a cut that's clean enough with a bowl gouge or a spindle gouge or what have you. We have diamond tip parting tool. Alright, now this is a really, really awesome tool. I love this. If you'll notice, it has a line down the center, and the tip is wider. There we go. Tip is wider at the top than it is at the bottom. See how that slopes there? This is used for parting wood off. So if you want to make a straight cut in, this is what you'd use. If you want to widen. If not, you use this, but yeah. Now, the purpose of this being wider and being the diamond shape is so that your tool won't catch. So it just rides. It's pretty much the same principle as a saw kerf. I mean, when you have a saw, you wouldn't make the tips of the saw the same width as the blade, because then you would stick and you get saw burn and all that nasty stuff. So it's the same principle. That's why you have a diamond. If you'll notice from our other parting tool, the diamond is much thicker. Alright, so this is a diamond parting tool, where this is a slim parting tool. I tend to use a slim more because I have a mini lathe, so I'm only going in a very small distance, so I don't need this powerhouse, pretty much. It's used for the same principle. I mean, it's this little jaggedy shape thing here. You're cutting along this edge and you pretty much just push in. As for handles, really with parting tools and with scrapers, you don't need long handles because you're taking off a very small amount of wood. There's little chance for a catch, and there's very little chance for an accident to happen other than destroying your wood in some manner. Now we're going to be talking about the various type of damage that can happen to your tool if you use it incorrectly. I haven't done these. These were given to me by a friend. So, yeah. This is a half-inch, looks like. Half-inch roughing gouge that has been bent. Okay? So if I take my straight edge, line it up with the base, it's bent. Now, this can be done. You notice it's sloping downwards towards the tip. So if you imagine the wood spinning here, or sorry, spinning this way, they push in too far and it bends over the tool rest. So what it's doing is the tool rest is here acting as a stop, and the wood is pushing the blade down. This is often caused by using a tool that has a flute that's too small on work that's too big. So if you can imagine taking like your spindle gouge here with this tiny little flute and going and trying to rough out a piece of wood that is, I don't know, it's just super exaggeration, 2 feet in diameter if you can have a lathe. More likely it would be 10 inches, maybe. Probably wouldn't do that, but a big piece of wood with a small tool will do that. The other thing I want to warn you guys about is please don't use non-lathe tools on a lathe. I saw someone use this regular hand chisel designed for mallet and chisel type activities on a lathe. It did not end well. I have since straightened this in a vise, but when I didn't, the handle was here, and then the blade came off here. So if you can imagine that blade at that angle. Now the reason this is caused is because, well, one, the steel is too thin in diameter, so it can't hold up under the forces of the lathe. But also there's the thing called the tang in the tool. Now the tang is the piece of metal here that extends into the handle of the tool. There's half tang, partial tang, and full tang tools. This is a partial tang, meaning the tang only goes probably up until these lines. So that gives you very, very small amount of purchase in which to chisel. And that's why it's not designed for the lathe. It's designed for hand chiseling. If we look over here at the bowl gouge, designed for a huge amount of forces, this is half tang, meaning it goes just about halfway, if not a little more, into the wood. So that's equal. So it's pretty much equal distance that's out is inside. This slim parting tool is a better example because you can see it. So you notice the blade's here, blade goes in, handle starts, blade continues going in. This portion that's inside the handle is the tang. So this would be a half tang. Other tools like 3/4 inch spindle gouge, also half tang. Half tang is your most common. Full tang stuff would be your big roughing gouges and your big tools designed for a lot of wood removal.
Hi guys. So we're going to continue talking about turning tools, but we're moving into the really exotic turning tools that I don't even have. So I'm on my computer here and recording my screen, and I'm just going to pull up an image of a hollowing tool used on the lathe. Now this right here is a hollowing tool. So if we see, this is your tailstock here on the lathe, your quill, and this tool, this whole bit in here, all mounts into your tailstock. So on the end of this tool there's going to be probably an MT2 taper connected to these articulating arms, connected to this cutting edge. Now you'll see that there's this setup here. Now the purpose of this tool is to hollow the inside of like a vase or even a bowl, as in this example, that you can't see inside of. So they have a whole bunch of different types of these. This setup has the tool, the frontmost arm resting on the tool rest and cutting into the tool with a depth gauge here. Alright, this whole bit right here is the depth gauge that measures the distance that they are cutting. Now, this is a pretty basic depth gauge. I've seen some super advanced ones that are like crazy expensive, but use lasers instead. So when you're cutting, alright, your tool goes in, it goes behind a corner you can't see. You push it until the laser hits the middlemost part of the wood, and then you know that you have reached the depth that you want, because the distance between this portion of the cutting tool and the edge of the wall is what the laser is measuring, or in this case, the little stop rod is measuring. These are pretty useful, I suppose, if you want to do like a vase or something with the shape of like, you want to do like a hollowed out type of spherical shape. I don't use them. I have a mini lathe. As you can see, this is a big lathe. I doubt you could find one that would fit on a mini lathe and that would actually be useful. Alright, next we're going to talk about the bowl saver, which is this tool. As you see, this is a bowl being turned, and you notice the tool is going in here and spewing chips out. Now, what this tool does is, because bowl turning wastes so much wood, this tool has come up with a way to make one bowl multiple bowls. So what it's doing is it's using this cutting edge to slide into the bowl and carve out this whole inside section that would normally just be turned to dust. Pretty much all it is a tool that mounts onto your banjo and that has this neat little sliding jig. The unfortunate part about this tool is you can't change the angle, or from the ones I've used, you can't change the angle of your insert, so this inside bowl will always have this side curve to it. We won't ever be able to change that. Now, moving on, these are really neat tools. I really want to get one of these. These are Robert Sorby Turnmaster tools. What these have are little replaceable carbide cutter tips, and they really simplify the whole process of turning. You don't have to sharpen your tools. If they get dull, you just replace the carbide tips. They come in a whole bunch of different types of cutting. Like right here, see this one with the little tip coming out? That's an undercutting tool for cutting captured rings. Or you have a basic scraper, or that will act as a spindle gouge. Or for bowls, this one. You only need one tool, or no, yeah, just like one tool, one handle with one metal rod, because all of these tips are all interchangeable. So I could put that tip on this, this, that, or that. They're all interchangeable within each other.
Okay, thanks guys for watching this video. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe. I love to hear your comments, and post a question in the comments. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Make sure to keep an eye out for upcoming videos, as I'm in spring break now, so I should be posting a lot more very soon to this one. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys later.